Hello and welcome back to another episode of Farewell Evangelion, the Neon Genesis Evangelion podcast where we go through the series bit by bit. My name is Keith, going through for his first time, and as always I'm joined by Peter.
Hello!
Who is going through for his first. Today we went through the first volume of the Campus Apocalypse spin-off series. This was originally released back in August 24th, 2007. Shinji Ikari's parents are gone, and he lives with his legal guardian, Ryoji Kaji, while attending the private Nerve Academy, but no one ever told Shinji about its secrets, or that he'd find the fellow student Kaoru, Rei, and Asuka out on the streets late at night, fighting with swords, spears, and whips, against the enemy that looks very human, but who Kaoru insists are beings called angels.
Yeah, they're definitely not just fashionable individuals, that's for sure.
I mean, this was originally published in the shoujo equivalent of Show and Jump.
Fair enough. Anyways, Keith, what'd you think? Let's just jump right to the end. What'd you think? Sorry.
I'm gonna give it 3 Rammuels out of 5.
I'm only gonna give it 2 because we only got 2 different versions of Rammuel.
That's exactly. So it's 2 out of 2 then.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 2 Rammuels. In fact, if you compare it to all the other series, it's really 2 out of 1 Rammuels is what this one gets.
And Rammuel is the well-known, the highest value of the angels.
Yes, of course. So, with regards to my prediction from last time, just to get back to where we're normally at this point of the podcast, I had predicted that we would get a series where we have the power of both God and anime, neither of which is on Shinji's side. And I would say that, I mean, saying the angels have the power of God is pretty basic, but I'm sticking with it. And the angels definitely have way more anime on their side than any of the actual characters from the manga, so...
That's true.
Yeah, those powers not on Shinji's side, and they both definitely exist, so... Yeah, I am saying I was correct. I'm giving myself a B+, because I could have been more specific in my predictions. But I didn't want to, because then I would have been wrong. I would not have specifically guessed what happened to this volume.
That's fair. And we briefly touched on this outside of the podcast, because I was telling you what to expect after you made your prediction. And I pointed out that where you like Detective Diary, you would probably like this one, and I'm sure you can kind of see now what I was getting at for like the themes of it.
Sure, I guess. I wouldn't say this was as good as Detective Diary. Not that this was bad, but half of what I liked about there's 3 things I liked about Detective Diary, and 2 of them don't line up with this one. First thing I liked about Detective Diary is it came after some real trash manga, so it was just a great refresher to start off on a strong foot regardless. The second thing I liked about Detective Diary is that jump dunk analogy I kept making of it was real quick and to the fucking point and got it over with. This one already feels like it's gonna set up plot and take some time to resolve that plot and like exist inside the plot for a couple chapters.
I mean, it is 2 volumes more than Detective Diary.
I want this shit to be over with next volume, and I have to wait a whole 2 bonus volumes.
That's the best way of like ever talking about anything. If you don't like another season of a show or something like that, it's like, oh man, I didn't care for the bonus of a chapter.
Yeah.
You mean the final season? Yeah, the bonus chapter.
Honestly, to bring it back to a very topical reference in the 2023 year of our Lord, Game of Thrones. That's 100% how I'm referring to the last 2 seasons. They weren't the last 2 seasons, they were the 2 bonus seasons we got of Game of Thrones. They did everything that was covered in the books, and then they started giving us bonus seasons, and the bonus seasons weren't great.
It works. I was thinking the exact same show.
Of course you were. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, we have subtly hinted at the specific plot of the series. Do you want to start talking about what that specific plot is?
Yeah, and I do want to preface this by saying also, you probably felt it too, but this is like very, I feel like, time-stamped to the 2000s for like the themes that go through this. Like, not just anime, like, I feel like everything that was coming out at this time was this level of like, kind of like, dark, in a sense.
Sure, at the time they definitely referred to it as dark. I would argue nowadays they would probably refer to it as cringe, is what a lot of this was.
Edgy is another way to put it, too.
Edgy is another great way to put it.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely felt that while going through this.
Yeah. But we pretty much open up with... we open up on a coin being dropped into a sewer, and first off, that's how you get Eds. Don't deal with that. He finds a little gem thing, and we get a smash cut to Shinji in the morning, having his breakfast, brooding about the fact that he's alone, he has no parents, and Ryoji Kaji's never there, which I would also be upset with.
Ryoji Kaji, his guardian. Ryoji Kaji, his guardian, is just never present, only shows up to pass out while drunk.
Yep.
I would specify there was one other thing that happened that night that you didn't mention, which was he saw Rei Ayanami running through the streets with a mysterious young, handsome gentleman.
Yeah. Although we don't get that actually in the pages at the beginning itself. Oh no, it is. It's in the little color panel thing.
Yeah, the color panel. I don't think we get any of Kaworu, but we get to see a flash of Ayanami running past.
Yeah, and then he... I don't know why they put it this way, but it's like not even like a page later where we actually get Shinji like in a memory panel thinking about the specifics of it.
Yeah.
But
which is weird to show a scene and then
immediately
cut to a flashback of the scene that just happened. It's like... could have taken a little bit more time with it.
Yeah. But we essentially have Toji and Kensuke also there with Shinji as they're in their classroom at the Nerve Academy when Ayanami shows up.
Asuka also shows up and starts berating them, which Kensuke gets just a little bit too into.
That's Kensuke, though.
It makes everybody uncomfortable, Keith. I am everybody, it made me uncomfortable, everybody's uncomfortable.
That's fair. But we have, classic bandaged up Rei. Asuka comes in, kind of like owning everything. Misato's the teacher again.
She is very hostile towards Shinji, which fair and deserved.
And then the new student is Kaworu.
Yeah, a new hot boy shows up at school.
This Kaworu not wasting any time in getting transferred to the school. In this loop, he's immediately there.
Yep. Also, fun fact, Shinji is immediately captivated by Kaworu because Kaworu is the hot boy who was running through the streets with Ayanami the night before. But also, Kaworu's just immediately captivated with Shinji because Shinji's a gentleman who could give him a tour of the school in spite of all of the girls in the class volunteering to give him a tour of the school.
Yeah, they're pretty much swarm him at lunch break, and he's like, "No, Shinji, you over there. Don't ask how I know your name. Show me around."
I heard you refer to yourself as the Shinj Man. Show me around, Shinj Man.
That absurd one over there keeps calling you Prof, but I won't do that.
That is clearly not your name. The only prof here is Professor Oh, Jesus, I almost just fully flipped that. And by almost, I mean, I did and then vamped for a couple seconds to give my brain a chance to restart. The only prof here is clearly Professor Misato, the one teaching the course.
And Shinji's kind of bad at showing people around the school.
Yeah, he kind of just has no idea what to show fucking Kaworu during this whole exchange.
He's kind of just speedrunning. He's like, oh, here's the music room, here's the painting room, this is the science lab. And that's the one he just goes and fucking takes a seat inside of it.
Yeah, and Kaworu's like, we're first years, do we actually need to see the science lab? And Shinji's like, well, sometimes when our class is cancelled, we hang out here. And Kaworu's like, you're bad at this, aren't you? And he's right. Shinji's bad at that.
And Shinji starts trying to figure out, like, what's the connection between him and Rei. And he comes to the conclusion faster than he probably should have that he's an alien.
Yep.
Which, on top of this, yeah, if we're going to assume that he's an angel, then yes, he is an alien.
Why would we assume that? This is just a random hot boy who showed up at our school. Why would we assume that he's an angel, Keith?
That's just one of those anime tropes, you know?
I don't know if you know this, Keith, but as has been stated in the intro of this podcast, this is my first time going through Evangelion. You can't make weird references to Evangelion as if I've already experienced Evangelion.
Okay. One might describe an attractive person as an angel.
One might say he's fairly angelic. I see what you're going for.
One could say he's out of this world.
You lost me again. But whatever. We'll just accept that and move on. Speaking of things that lost me, except the opposite, after school, Shinji doesn't get lost by Kaoru and Ayanami. When he sees them leaving together, he just straight up stalks them and follows them wherever they're going.
And then we get kind of like the fight scene. Rei's using what looks to be the regular-sized Spear of Longinus.
Yep. I don't remember what Kaoru was using, but Shinji later gets a weapon as well.
Kaoru doesn't really fight much in this version, but it's a sword.
Oh, right, he does a lot of his AT field protection shenanigans.
Yeah, but he's kind of got like a sword-like thing.
Fair.
And just to get to it now, Asuka uses a whip, and Shinji gets a gun.
Yes, Shinji gets a gun. Straight up fucking Rock 19.
But, he encounters them fighting something in a, industrial park, abandoned area. And they're like, what the fuck, Shinji, what are you doing here? And then a guy floats down. It's like, haha! I'm Ramiel, the lightning!
It turns out in this version, they skip right to the best angel, which is Ramiel. Although I will say, this version of Ramiel, not as good as just the fucking octahedron that shoots lasers. Kinda prefer that Ramiel, but this Ramiel is still a decent Ramiel.
That's fair. And it's a bit it's still the same concept of they have the cores, and as gets mentioned by Kaoru, that's not actual Ramiel's form. It's possessing a corpse with the core inside, and destroying the core is how you destroy the actual angel. And they can manifest these black wings, and they each have a gimmick essentially.
Yes. Ramiel's gimmick is being a hot boy, also lightning. Probably more so lightning. I'm willing to bet all of the angels ends up being hot in one way or another.
I mean, honestly, it's interchangeable.
Yeah. Mostly the lightning, but also the hot boy.
Yeah, Ramiel, going back to the fact that, as we mentioned before, it was really strong, kind of just beats the shit out of Kaoru and Rei.
Yeah, they keep calling out for Shinji to run away. And this is quite possibly the earliest to self-actualize Shinji we've seen, because the very first time he encounters an angel, I suppose it helps that the angel just looks like a hot guy who shoots lightning, and kicks the shit out of children, rather than some unknowable eldritch beast. But in this version, the very first time Shinji encounters an angel, his first thought is, I can't abandon my friends, I need to stay here and help them.
I can't abandon my friends I've only had for this one day.
Well, Ayanami's been, I don't know about friends, but a person he's known for a while. And then, fucking dude he just met earlier this day, and who's been weirdly specific towards him. Can't abandon him. That's potential friend for life right there.
He said he liked me. We're bound forever.
He refers to me by my actual name, and not Baka or fucking Prof. He learned my name faster than any one of the classmates I've known for years.
I do like the dynamic of no one knows Shinji's real name in the school.
Yeah, of course.
You're Prof. Baka, right?
That, I'm not going to be surprised if there is a Neon Genesis spin-off somewhere out there where it's them as adults and Shinji is a professor going by the name of Professor Baka. That seems like something that probably exists. Anyway, Shinji picks up another marble.
Yeah, first he runs towards the hot boy Ramiel, as you stated.
Yes.
And then he gets knocked back, kind of gets knocked into Ayanami, who is bleeding profusely, and he has a flashback to his childhood, bloody hands, and then he kind of lets out a scream that knocks away Ramiel for now.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up to a familiar ceiling.
Classic familiar ceilings. This familiar ceiling happens to be the school nurse's office, which, in classic Neon Genesis Evangelion spin-off series, the school nurse is Ritsuko Akagi.
Yeah, and the more you see of these, NERV doesn't really exist in the sense that it has previously as an organization. It's always the school is kind of the central spot. You do notice that, like, okay, Misato's always the teacher, Ritsuko's always the school nurse,
Gendo's always
the headmaster.
Gendo's always the principal who is obsessed with expressing love for his son.
Except we know at the beginning of this one, according to Shinji, or the synopsis, his parents are dead. So we could be into another scenario where Gendo is faking his death.
Did it? I thought only his mother was dead, and his father just chose for Shinji to live with fucking Kaji. I could have misinterpreted that. I interpreted that as fucking Yui died, and Gendo was like, alright, time for you to live with fucking Kaji here. He used to work for me, so I guess he's your dad now. But I suppose that also could be interpreted as Yui died, and then Gendo just named Kaji as, like, the fucking...
Yeah,
what's the word I'm looking for? Caretaker?
Legal guardian is what he's...
Legal guardian, that's the word I was looking for. Gendo named fucking Kaji as the legal guardian, and then just happened to fucking die after that. But
you kept saying it, but just I kept picturing like the paper with the documents or whatever it says. It just says fucking Ryoji Kaji.
Yeah, I feel like that's
legal name.
To be fair, I fully accept that as his full legal name. That seems like what something Kaji would have done is have his legal name changed to fucking Ryoji Kaji. And I also feel like Gendo would exclusively refer to Kaji as fucking Ryoji Kaji.
He's an honorable man like that. But what I'm going off of is the synopsis specifically says Shinji Ikari's parents are gone.
Oh. I mean, to be fair, gone doesn't mean dead. Yui's definitely dead, that's for sure. But gone could just mean Gendo doesn't want anything to do with Shinji, so he just walked away one day.
New Evangelion story, gotta pay the mom tax.
To be fair, gone could also just be interpreted as it was in fucking the Slam Dunk series of Detective Diaries, where Gendo just left one day, and everyone around Shinji just didn't correct him when he said, "My dad's dead." Everyone knew, but no one corrected him.
Or maybe it's just a typo, and that E at the end of Gone's not supposed to be there, and both his parents are the dinosaur from the video game series Gone.
That would actually be super fucking cool.
The crossover we need.
Wasn't that also a TV series and a manga?
Yeah, it was everything. Gone was really popular.
Gone was all of the world, because Gone's great. So anyways, tune in next week when we talk about Gone.
Farewell Gone.
No, we're not doing Farewell Gone, because Gone's never going away. We're saying Hello Again Gone. That's what the title of the next
Gone
series is.
Forever.
Gone Forever, yeah. Which is great, because it's a pun, which makes it sound like the series is now gone forever. But it's just about Gone, who is here forever.
Those who don't know.
Yeah.
So it was Ray and Kaoru who brought him to the school nurse after he passed out.
Yep.
And then they're like, hey, you saw some shit, stuff happened, you need to come with us.
I believe it was Ray specifically who took him to the new space. Which is a weird... Oh, also, during class we heard... Or not class, but we heard of a prophecy of pillars of the world that are going to collapse and cause heaven to come crashing down into Earth or some nonsense like that.
That can't be real.
Yeah, anyways, Ray takes Shinji to a secret, mysterious basement underneath the church, where they...
Which you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah.
Shinji way too trusting in this scenario.
I mean, they did teach Shinji how to make a gun, so,
Well, not yet. He gets the gun later.
I mean, it works out.
Yeah. I was exploring the basement of a church and I got a gun. From an ominous voice, it might have been God.
Definitely wasn't my dad, though. That's for sure.
But yeah, they get down to this room with a pillar and some, like, roots and stuff. Kaoru and Asuka are already there, and they give them the whole spiel of, like, oh, we're a secret organization that fights the angels, but we're not NERV.
We're just... teens. Teens with weapons.
And attitude.
Like a whip and a spear. And a can-do attitude. That's why we need you, Shinji. We're not well-rounded. All of us have a can-do attitude. We need someone with a can't-don't attitude. That's why we need you.
We need someone with a ranged weapon.
We need someone who just has a Glock. Can you steal one from Kaji? I assume he has several that he leaves at home.
Also, they do talk about how they're defending Yggdrasil, specifically the World Tree.
Yes.
But Shinji kind of goes through like this whole ritual thing to awaken his powers, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And he just energizes the gun. Like, it's not like they just give him a gun, it's like, this is yours now. Take care of it. And everything else that's a problem. They go through the whole thing, and then Kaoru does make a mention that he pulled a powerful one, which kind of sounds like this might be like a gacha system, where like could he like reroll or something, get another weapon?
No, it's a gacha system, but with accounts locked to a credit card, there is no way to reroll.
And with this one, we kind of get like, you know, the standard anime trope of, hey, you need to help us, otherwise the roll will end. And he's like, I don't know. And it's like, no, you need to. Seriously, come on, man. Don't play around.
Please, man, just let me deal with this.
Literally, the world's gonna end.
For the love of God. I am ending the world if you don't do this.
And kind of cut into this whole scene of him getting the gun, we do see another scene of a woman finding a lightning god Ramiel, or the body he was using. She's like, oh no, I gotta call an ambulance, and then the thing attacks her.
And she does. But now, she has lightning god Ramiel's core inside of her. Also, this is going to lead to the obligatory chapter where we have to acknowledge the fact that Evangelion is just about sex, nothing else. Because what's going to happen is Ramiel is going to track down Shinji in the lady's body and make a comment about how you didn't seem particularly interested in that hot boy, so are you into this hot lady? Boys like one or the other. Which is it, Shinji? Tell me now. Which adults do you want to fuck? I will take their body and you will fuck them. Fun. Fun time.
But it was mainly raised by Kaji, so he just kind of points to a watermelon and the person doesn't know how to react.
Yeah.
Also, there's just a fucking random scene of him scaring a nun.
Which, honestly, good for him.
But yeah, he leaves school, and as you mentioned, does encounter the woman, but he immediately kind of catches on when she gives up what she is.
Yeah, she doesn't try to hide it very well.
Yeah. Kaoru also suspects something's up, like he's getting a feeling, and he's like, where's Shinji at?
Yeah.
So we get the fight kind of break down, and the person who ends up showing up for the first, like, to help him, essentially, is Asuka, who, we haven't really talked about it, but she's standard Asuka to him. This guy's a complete piece of shit, why is he helping us? We don't need him.
Why the fuck are we including him in any of this?
But ultimately she ends up being kind of one of the forces that motivate him, as well as random small child looking for her cat.
Yeah, a child shows up, and that's what convinces Shinji to draw his gun in the first place.
A child?
He needs...
definitely not letting that slide.
He needs to shoot Ramiel before the child gets injured, even though Ramiel is not paying any amount of attention to the child.
Yeah, the child just kind of fucking sneaks up right behind Ramiel, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Shinji, draws aggro when the Ramiel was not paying attention to the child at all. And then Asuka comes up and starts attacking the angel, so the angel focuses on Asuka. And then while this is happening, Shinji runs over to the child, and he's like, yo, child, what's going on? You shouldn't be here. This is dangerous. Get out of here. And then the child just, holds up a kitten, and it was like, I needed to find Mr. Whiskers. And then just fucks off out of the story, and it's just... Why was any of this a thing that happened?
I saw that lady charging up her spirit bomb, and I had to get my cat. Yeah, because that whole thing, she's charging up a lightning attack.
Yeah.
But I do really like the idea of she just being like, no, you gotta attack me. And she's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I was never not attacking you, Shinji. Also, tell me where the, spirit boy is, and also where my core is. And Shinji reveals that he's also a spirit boy.
Yeah. So there's kind of a brief fight that's only Asuka versus Ramiel, as Shinji's kind of just fucking around with the cat girl. And then he's like, okay, I guess I gotta do this stuff, because this whole incident has changed my outlook on the world itself, and I need to be a hero.
Yeah, he does.
Yep.
He needs to be a hero, Keith.
But he still doesn't like just immediately shoot Ramiel. He's like, stop. It's like,
yeah, it's not, I can end this fight by shooting Ramiel. It's, I'm going to point my gun at Ramiel and hold her at gunpoint and say stop. And that'll probably work.
What are you going to do, arrest her?
Yeah, I don't... To be fair, the world has not been adequately explained to Shinji at this point, so I can understand him thinking that that's what they're trying to do anyways. But yes, you're right, it was very stupid of him.
And then Calvert and Ray end up showing up and finishing off the fight by... Well, Shinji does completely, like, immobilize, I guess is the best way to put it, Ramiel, so takes her down. But ultimately, it's Calvert who kind of just does, like, the whole Kali Ma thing from Indiana Jones and rips out the core.
Yeah. And Ramiel is now presumably dead.
Yep, and Shinji has joined the team.
Let's go, Shinji! Woo! Everyone loves you now.
Yeah, and that is actually the whole first volume.
We did it! We got through.
So there's definitely a lot of, kind of to your point earlier, there's definitely a lot of text boxes doing a bunch of lore dump stuff, which... It's one of those 2000s deep lore, edgy ones where, like, the meaning and the human experience. So there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, I didn't, like, hate it or anything. It was just there was a lot of that going on.
Oh, yeah. And that's, I feel that's more... It's a part of the time that this came out, and less so that they were trying to dump a bunch of lore. I feel like if this would have came out, like, more recently, it would have been more, like, trimmed up.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially where, going back to some of the other spin-offs we did where it's just dumping lore at you, it's giving you lore dumps during action scenes in those other ones, but this one, like, the action scenes trim up on it, so it's mainly the dialogue. They didn't know how to make it snappy is what I would feel for this one, and it kind of ends up being those big dumps. But when it gets into, like, an action scene stuff, I didn't feel like there was any of that extra fluff in there.
Yeah, I will say the non-action scenes dragged a little bit, like, when I made reference to the conspiracy that the world's gonna come crashing down and pillars that hold up the heavens or whatever. Like, that felt weird and unnecessary. And there's also a scene after Shinji is taken to the church basement where they overheard that the ghost that haunts the church has returned, and it usually presents itself in the form of a female head on the altar, but... Last night, a nun saw a man's head on the altar, and then they cut back to Shinji leaving the basement and poking his head through, like, a mystical portal, so his head appears on the altar, but nothing else. And, like, that just felt unnecessary to me. Like, we didn't need to be shown how he left the basement. I just assumed he was able to leave the basement after entering the basement. I didn't think it needed to be a whole ordeal, and, like, them setting up a ghost that haunts the church... I'm fine with it if later on they pay that off and there's some other thing, but if that was a whole just set up to pay off Shinji leaving the church, that seemed wholly unnecessary.
Yeah, like it was purely for like the joke of Shinji scaring the woman, because it just ends up raising the question of, are they like meeting in this church without anyone in the church aware of what's going on? Like, where did they find this spot and stuff like that? But on the other end, I think it would have been more interesting if the rumor of a ghost girl going around was actually Shinji trying to track down these people and find out what they were doing, and ends up stumbling across their base, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, the ghost girl that they're describing sounds just like Ayaname.
And in fact, that's what I figured it was going to be, was the reveal that that was Ayanami or that was Asuka or something. But nope, it's just this ghost girl that haunts the school. Actually, recently it was revealed to be a ghost boy, and the ghost boy was Shinji, and it's just, why is any of this necessary?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those ones where it's like, they clearly, it was all set up for a joke, and it was kind of a front and center thing, when, if they wanted to make it a joke, I felt like it should have been more of a subtle thing. Like, maybe have people in the background of the scene, like, as Shinji walks down a hall, will have a conversation with someone else, someone in the background has, like, a little bubble, and it's like, oh, I heard there's this ghost person that shows up at the church.
Yeah. Once again, I don't think it's nearly as bad as some of the stuff, like, in Pico Pico Middle School, but I do think there were parts where it could have used like a second pass on an editor and just being like, hey, not necessary, adds nothing to the story.
Yeah. I will point out actually though that Campus Apocalypse as a whole is in the like top 3 spin-offs that like selling wise.
What are the other 2?
Shinji Ikari Raising Project is always a very popular one.
Good.
The other one, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's kind of like the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, but I can't remember what it's called specifically. It's like one of those chibi ones.
I don't know, Keith. I got nothing.
We have not done it yet.
Okay, good. Then I definitely don't know for you.
Yeah.
As we've mentioned previously, this is my first time doing anything with anything Evangelion. I have made a point of not finding anything Evangelion related on my own, so we haven't covered it on this podcast.
Yeah, this is episode 02. Oh wait, my thumb was covering something.
If we have not covered it on this podcast, I don't know about it.
Yeah.
And I will never know about it. I refuse to know about anything Evangelion related that we haven't covered on this podcast. Not even like new stuff we will cover. I'm not going to read it. You're just going to have to like walk me through it, and I'll pretend like I'm following along because I definitely also read it.
Oh, we could do dramatic readings.
I still... We joked about this in person a couple times because the way we've been going through Campus Apocalypse has been an in-person experience for us. So I've joked a couple times that because we weren't sure exactly how we were going to read through this one volume that we have between the two of us, that we should have just done a bedtime story podcast where I tuck myself into bed and then you just read Campus Apocalypse to me. Which obviously is not how we're doing Campus Apocalypse. We found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
It is absolutely how we're going to do any light novels. If we ever do a light novel, it is me tucking myself into bed and then you reading the light novel to me and us recording that reading and my live reactions to the light novel.
That kind of just sounds fun. We'll see what happens when we get to that.
In the process, we'll essentially just be creating an audiobook for the light novel.
Could be fun.
Could be very fun.
So was there any other big standouts from this first volume for you?
Not so much. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I'm putting it on either Detective Diary or Shinji Ikari Racing Project levels.
Yeah, if this was, like, turned into an anime, this would definitely be the episode 1 and 2 introducing to you to the world and the characters.
Yeah.
It very much feels that way in a more old school sense of it. That not a lot of progression happens. It's just, hey, Shinji got the powers. Hey, Shinji beat the first bad guy. But overall, I do enjoy this one. It is a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely enjoy it as well.
Well, with that, we can start the wrap-up process. But before going through that, we did actually get an email.
We did, and we should probably call this... not only the email, we should also call it what the email's about.
Yeah.
Which is...
We're just announcing we got an email, that is all.
I mean, we did get an email. I just mean, the subject matter of the email was pretty cool, and I don't know that we ever actually talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Which is, if you'll give me 1 second just so I can quote the person correctly, Anuj Agarwal is how I definitely butchered pronouncing your name, so sorry about that. But he's the founder of FeedSpot, which has a whole bunch of information about anime-related stuff, and created a list of the top 5 Neon Genesis Evangelion podcasts, and ranked Farewell Evangelion as the 2 on the list of 5. We're the second highest ranked Evangelion podcast on his site, which is pretty friggin' neat, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was pretty unexpected. We actually kind of found out before the email, because on the Instagram, we're also connected to the Twin Peaks Evangelion podcast guys, and they tagged us in it when they got 3rd spot.
Yeah. We should point out, while neither of us is upset about this, the top-ranked podcast on it releases 1 episode a year, so I don't know how good that 1 episode a year is, but I think everyone who listens to this podcast should do whatever it takes to get us to the top-ranked podcast on that list, because we release weekly episodes, at least for the time being, and when we're not taking hiatuses, and it'd be real cool if we got recognized and were made the top-ranked podcast, because in terms of volume, we're absolutely the top-ranked Evangelion podcast. I don't know about quality. I do not promise anything with regards to quality. But volume, we're up there.
The other one I enjoyed when we were going through this list too was the number 5 podcast. We joked about a bit too when we saw it, which was it seems to be a guy getting his sister into Evangelion, and it's the exact same premise, but it's if you were my sister.
Yeah, it's Buddy is taking his sister through the Evangelion anime and explaining why it's the greatest anime of all time. And we joked heavily that if I was your sister, that's what this podcast would be as well. Actually, can you pull up the ranking list? I want to see if we can find the name of that. We should call out a couple of these podcasts since we're talking about them anyways. You know what? Share interactions and all that. So first of all, that top-ranked podcast that releases... we were incorrect. It's not one episode a year. It's 2 episodes a year.
Oh, that is
and it's entitled Ava and Lilith, The Monsters of Ben. So check them out if you want to hear an episode or a podcast that releases 26... releases fewer episodes than us by a factor of 26, but apparently they're better than ours by a factor of 26, so definitely worth checking out. Already mentioned Twin Peaks Evangelion. The one we were talking about where it's Buddy taking his sister through Evangelion is called My Sister, Evangelion, and Me. Hosted out of Cincinnati, Ohio is an additional detail that they have on there. So, good for them. But yes, I'm just gonna read the synopsis of their podcast, because why not? We're talking about this now, let's just fucking go into it. But it's an episode-by-episode analysis of the anime series and films, in which I, Josh, try to convince my non-anime watching sister, Steph, that Hideki Anno's 1995 anime Neon Genesis Evangelion and subsequent films End of Evangelion and the Rebuild of Evangelion series is one of the greatest compilations of modern art and media made in our lifetime. You should check them out. You should tell them that we told you to check them out, and then you should email them telling them they should do a crossover with us where Josh walks me through Evangelion and Keith walks Steph through Evangelion. And we really just ruined their podcast because we're both terrible at this.
But we are number 2.
We are. That's true. We could teach them a thing or two because we're currently higher ranks than them on the top 5 Evangelion podcast list.
No, what we really do is have an episode of you and Steph having no idea what's going on, and then me and Josh having an episode of just talking about stuff.
You and Josh just agreeing about how great Evangelion is, and me and Steph being able to say, it's fucking weird, why do they keep forcing us to go through this? Neither one of us is enjoying this experience. Oh, that'd be so cathartic for me. Talking to another person going through what I'm going through and getting them to agree that this is technically torture.
But yeah, overall, that was a really cool thing, getting number 2. And yeah.
Once again, if you want us to just, mispronounce your name and talk about what you've got to say, shoot us an email. We'll talk about it. We will clearly talk about it too fucking much, apparently.
Make your own tier list where you say we're number 1. That might cheer us up.
Make a tier list of the top 4 Evangelion podcasts. Make us number 1. Make Twin Peaks Evangelion number 2, because they're pretty cool people, I assume. I haven't actually met any of them personally, but I assume they're cool people. Make that My Sister Evangelion and Me number 3, and then make us number 4th again, because we're so good we have to appear on the top 4 twice.
So with that, let's wrap up the episode. So as always, if you'd like to reach out to us, as mentioned before, you can send us an email at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. On top of that, these episodes go up every Wednesday on all podcasting platforms. That includes YouTube, and it will be every Wednesday. Of course, we also have the Farewell Evangelion Instagram page, where we update facts, tidbits, and bits about the series as we go through it. We're also pretty quick at responding there, so make sure to reach out. And to wrap it up, as always, Peter, what can we expect on the 2nd volume of Neon Genesis Evangelion Campus Apocalypse?
We're going to get a payoff to the child who had a cat. We're going to get a payoff to the ghost that haunts the church with little girls' heads. And Shinji's going to shoot an angel in the fucking face. Oh, and sorry, almost forgot, plenty of fan service.